First things first, we're going to share a little bit more about who Valley Leadership is and the work that we do. Then we're going to dive into our new program suite. And specifically, we're going to focus most of our time on Catalyze, which is the program that we're recruiting for right now. After that, we are going to give you the opportunity to ask any big questions that you might have. And finally, we're going to dedicate the last part of our time together to a bit of a mini session. This is designed to be interactive and to give you just a taste of the type of programming that you would experience if you joined Catalyze. So with all that said, who is Valley Leadership? Well, our staff includes Dave Brown, he's our CEO. Sarah Crocker is our Marketing and Communications Director. Bailey Reynolds is our Strategic Impact Program Manager. And me, I'm Michelle Castaneda, and I design and run our leadership development programs. So as an organization, our mission is really clear. We are working to bring a broad spectrum of Arizonans together to work in collaboration as leaders to impact Arizona's most pressing issues. And that mission of ours is directly linked to a core belief that leadership is action. It's not a job title or a position that you hold, but rather we think of leadership as something that all of us can choose to practice. And for us, practicing leadership looks like living out the principles of doing that you see here. We're going to be digging deeper into these principles during our mini session at the end, because these principles of being driven to do, putting Arizona first, building trust, operating with a team mindset, and practicing integrity really form the backbone of all of our programs. Now, over the past 3 years, Valley Leadership has evolved its programs to better align to the mission and the principles of doing that you just saw. That evolution has brought us to today, where we've taken all the best parts of our past programs and built on them to create a new suite of programs that we believe has the potential to really move both our organization and our state forward. So our new program suite is really designed for anyone who wants to do good work for Arizona. So if that's you, then you are in the right place, and Catalyze is a great starting point and is a program that we're actively recruiting for now. We also have an ongoing effort you might be aware of called Impact Maker, which has been running for about 2 years. This is a network you can tap into after you've completed Catalyze. And because Catalyze will serve as a prerequisite for our other new programs, completing it this year gives you the opportunity to join Explore or Summit when those programs launch in 2022. Now, I want to share just a bit more about those two programs that I mentioned. Explore and Summit are both set to launch next year. And Explore is really designed to help participants learn more about the great diversity of our state by traveling to various parts of Arizona to learn more about how pressing issues are showing up in rural, urban, suburban, and Native American communities. Participants will expand their perspectives, their knowledge of the issues, and have time to build really close relationships with the people in their cohort. Now, our other program, Summit, is really designed to help leaders deepen their understanding of a specific issue that has a really big impact on our state. So you can envision a summit on education or a summit on healthcare, for example. This is going to be our most flexible program because we really want participants to opt into the parts that make the most sense for them so that they can put their knowledge that they gain to work right away, whether that be in their career, in the community, or in Impact Maker, which I'm going to share just a bit more about in a moment. Now, if you've already subscribed to our email list, you can expect to receive updates about these two programs as we gear up to officially launch them in the spring. So if you are new to the Valley Leadership family, then you should really think of our Catalyze program as the prerequisite for getting involved in our future programs or an Impact Maker. And if you're a Valley Leadership alum, it might be helpful for you to participate in Catalyze if it's been a while since you graduated and you're curious about the evolutions that we've made to our programming content. Excuse me. We have really taken all the best parts of our Accelerate and Institute programming and funneled them into the new program suite that you see here, which will make up the 3 programs that will run from now on. So all that said, we are excited to share more details with you today about Catalyze. We've really designed it to do 4 big things. We want to help participants make connections with others who are eager to make a positive impact in the community. We want to create space for participants to build knowledge not only about themselves, but about the most pressing issues facing Arizona. We want to introduce participants, to tools that will build up their introspection, communication, and collaboration skills. And we want to help participants broaden their perspectives by hearing from community leaders who are working on some of the state's biggest issues. Those issues will encompass several topics that you see here, including social determinants of health, child well-being, education, and issues related to poverty. And those topics will be explored over the course of 10 virtual sessions. Those sessions kick off in early September and wrap up in February. Each one will run for 3 hours and 15 minutes and will occur every other week. You can expect to spend 1 to 1.5 hours prepping for each session so that we're really able to make the most of our time together. Now, because we really wanted to ensure that people outside of Maricopa from all over the state could participate, all 10 core program sessions will be virtual. But sprinkled throughout the program, you'll have opportunities to socialize with each other in person, as well as opportunities to socialize virtually. And we'll give you the chance to complete pre-work activities together in person if you desire to do so. So when you arrive at a virtual session, you'll be greeted with an agenda that looks something like this. This is an actual agenda that we used in a session in our first virtual program, which wrapped up in January, called Ready Together. Our sessions are really designed to be fast-paced and interactive, so you can expect to spend multiple times in breakout sessions with your peers, as well as hear from 1 to as many as 5 guest speakers, depending on that session's topic and format. And if you're wondering what sorts of guest speakers we tend to invite, here's just a tiny sample of the guests that joined us to present at our Ready Together program. Now, the insight that you gain from those guest speakers, in addition to the independent work that you do to prepare for each session, are really designed to help you clarify for yourself what you want to commit to doing once Catalyze ends. And you'll use that commitment to craft your own personal impact plan. Now, that impact plan might include joining Valley Leadership's Impact Maker. For those who don't know, the Impact Maker is a network of Valley Leadership alumni and strategic partners who are working together to tackle to-do lists in pursuit of both immediate impact as well as systemic change. We now have 7 impact teams focused on important issues ranging from child well-being to the environment. We just added our racial justice and environment teams this year, and we have plans to continue launching additional teams in the future. Sorry, throat. So if that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, then you should know anyone who completes our Catalyze program or anybody who's already gone through a Valley Leadership program in the past is eligible to join Impact Maker. So as I mentioned before, Catalyze sessions will begin in early September, specifically the week of September 6th, excuse me, and occur about every other week until the week of February 7th. We'll offer 1 morning session option and 1 evening session option, so participants can select into the session series that works best for their schedule. And those session times will be based on availability survey data that we collect from the final cohort. In addition to the session dates you see here, we're also going to include optional social events that will be spread throughout the program. So at this point, you might be wondering about the cost. Now, because we want to make sure that cost is never a barrier, we've created a sliding scale. So the program cost ranges, excuse me, the cost ranges from $200 to $750, depending on income level. And those income levels differ based on whether someone belongs to a household with a single income or a household with multiple incomes. And scholarships and wage replacement are also available, so you can make that request as part of your application if you are interested in that financial assistance. The application is completely online and is comprised of a few short answer questions. We're reviewing those now on a rolling basis. And once we review those applications, you can expect an email notification letting you know whether you've been accepted. So to access that application, you'll want to visit our website at valleyleadership.org/Catalyze. And be sure to submit by the deadline of June 22nd. So with all of that, excuse me while I drink the absolute rest of this coffee, and I'm going to hand things over to Dave so he can moderate our Q&A. Now, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself to share out your question, please feel free. If you're more comfortable typing your questions into the chat, you can do that as well. Dave, take it away.
Great, thank you, Michelle, and welcome everyone. So excited to see so many interested in the Catalyze program and VL's new suite portfolio of programming. As Michelle mentioned, all of this is in service to our mission and purpose, which is to see a broad spectrum of Arizonans working together, working collaboratively, working under and operating from our principles of doing, which we feel are very important values that we think exemplify leadership. Many of you on the call today even are leading some of our impact teamwork, so it's great to see you. And excited to have any questions, both on the bigger picture why. I know for many of you, especially those who have been in Arizona for a while, this is a bit of a change for Valley Leadership. We had an institute program that went 41 years, so this is new names, new programs, really the same spirit of VL over the last few years. So happy to answer any kind of those big picture questions. And then as well, try to get into some of the minutia details of what the Catalyze program or any of the programs will be. If you wouldn't mind, either throw up your virtual hand if you would like to say something. You can type it into the chat, or just unmute yourself and say, hey, Dave, I have a question.
What was the genesis behind switching from the 41-year class run to Catalyze? Why the format change?
Yes, so some big picture reasons for the change, really to get more aligned with our mission and vision. Class 41 and just really institute leadership development programming overall. It came out of the 80s, out of Atlanta, really more focused on a smaller footprint as cities have grown and the issues have become more sophisticated and challenging. We wanted to make sure we had as many voices at the table as possible, helping shape that, in particular in Arizona, which is a younger state, a state that is very varied, but also has opportunities to connect. It almost has a small town feel, even with having Phoenix in the 5th largest city included in the state. And so we wanted to make sure every voice that was willing to lead was at the table. With Institute, there were some barriers. One was cost. The tuition at Institute for the most recent year was $3,000. It did require participants take a whole Friday off once a month. Just those two right there can limit who can participate in the program. And as Michelle shared at the beginning, our leadership is based in action. People who want to do something, let's get them involved. And how do we make that as easy as possible? In particular, when you look at virtual, you're able to access people from across the state. And those, again, even those of you that are new to the state, rural Arizona is very different than urban Arizona, which is very different than tribal Arizona. So we want to make sure we get as many voices at a table as possible to think about how we shape and solve some of Arizona's problems and opportunities. And we need that with as many people as possible. So a big part of this was a mission of VL for over 41 years. Yes, stays the same. The activation of how we get there changes a little bit, given that, things look different 40 years ago. I will say the Institute program has been the same since its inception back in the 80s. So it's something where we wanted to make sure we were as relevant and as accessible as possible going forward. And that resulted in these 3 programs.
Hi, Dave, it's Juana. I have a question.
Hey, Juana.
So I apologize if I missed the class size. And then I was curious about the morning and afternoon, I'm not sure if it was the evening, I think you said evening. Is the idea that the group do you select one or the other, and then would you be kind of working with that group for the entirety of the program?
Michelle, you want to take a stab?
Yes, you would select into either the morning series of sessions or the evening series of sessions. And that's really to enable us to create small groups that persist throughout the program. And then, I'm sorry, Juana, what was that first question that you had?
Class size.
Oh, right. Yes, class size. Thank you. We are going to cap each session, so morning and evening at 75, which means that you wouldn't be on a Zoom call with more than 75 people, regardless of which option you select into.
And this is for those of you that are Ready Together graduates. There's, I think, a couple on, which was our virtual COVID year program. The way the cohorts are set up is, again, what slot works best for you. Cohorts are larger because, again, it's online, but we do keep things podded. So you'll have a pod that of folks that you'll go through the whole program with, where you'll do interactions with. We do have 3 in-person social events where you'll get to meet people and learn more about your cohort and learn about people in the other cohort, as well as a random kind of pod here and there throughout the program. So you're meeting people as well. So we know one of the big values of Institute was 1, being together, and 2, learning and getting to know people. Relationship building, especially in a state like Arizona, is huge in how everything gets done. And we want to make sure that that's still possible, even though we're online. So Michelle and the team have done a fantastic job making sure there are quality times to get to know each other, despite a large cohort, despite being online. You will get to know people through your cohort and as part of the overall program overall. I had a hand raised from Matt, Ash, and then I'll get to the comment or the question that Jennifer has in the chat, but let's start with Matt.
Thanks, Dave. Just 2 quick questions. Just one, I know the program has shifted a little bit from the way you're doing things, but is there any example from, maybe some very small, project or that one of the Valley Leadership alumni has done that has, really grown into something, really large? And then I know we're focused on Arizona. I'm just wondering if there are any mechanisms to connect nationally to continue work on a larger scale.
Great question. So yes, over the course of 40 years, lots of great examples of how the VL network, which is a network, not a networking group, has come together. One in particular, I think we posted on our blog, and I think one of the team leads was on here. Leslie, are you still on? I have to see. Yes, she's on. That we actually highlighted was the team came together as part of their group project. So Institute had group projects going forward. We call those impact teams. They're working on projects that are both tactical, short-term, but also long-term and systemic. But one of the highlights of the Institute program in particular was Leslie's group, who worked on legislation and had it passed that still survives today in some form, that has kids in the foster care system who age out get free tuition. It now includes part tuition, part books. But that's one of the kind of things where we're thinking about, again, we want to see systemic improvement. We want to see systemic coordination. And to your point, Matt, too, about national, this is a model that we pulled some stuff from groups across the country, leadership groups, but also national groups. There's a group in particular, they're called Ashoka Changemakers. They do stuff all over the country and all over the world. MIT has a similar group where it's really based in that long term. What do we need to change long term? So when you think about year over year foster kids aging out, and Arizona has thousands of them, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity. And to think that year after year, you're going to have kids getting an education, that's huge. That's systemic. And as we look at our impact team work, that's what they're working towards. Some of the work may be more project-based, short-term, and even that short-term period could be 1 to 2 years. But over the long term, we're looking at big picture. We're looking at how do we get more Arizonans living longer? How do we get more kids proficient in reading by 3rd grade? How do we get more kids not interacting with child welfare because their parents have preventative care and services they need to be able to thrive as a family? What are we going to do about water? What are we going to do about our environment that everybody here, at least in Phoenix, is seeing? What happens when the state is on fire, and we got to think about how we match that and face that challenge. So yes, we're thinking about this as a new model that may get some national attention. We were inspired by national initiatives, frankly, and that 41-year spirit of VL that looks to get things done. So always interested in that kind of perspective too from all of you as you think about how you want to fit in with what VL's doing and what we need to do as a state.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Let's go to Ash.
Thank you, Dave. Just a clarification for the weeks that y'all already have scheduled for the sessions, just to clarify, there aren't specific days yet. The cohort would then respond to a survey and days would be selected on what works best for folks. Is that what you're thinking?
That is correct, but Michelle, please confirm. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We'll send out a survey and then people will let us know what their blocks of availability are. And from there, we'll select the times that accommodate the most people.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So let me get to a couple here quickly in the chat. Time commitment, roughly 3 hours every week, you'll be online. And it's a very quick moving pace online program that Michelle's put together. You'll have about an hour and a half of prep. That prep won't just be, hey, read these things, review these PowerPoints. Some of it will be in person, some of it will be out in the community, some of it will be watching TED Talks and other things that as we prep for any of the issue days, you get a little more background and context. So it is a time commitment. Let's say if you add all that up, it's about 10 hours a month-ish. Some months are less, when we get to around the holidays, we don't meet as often, there won't be as much prep, but yes, plan on around 10 hours a month-ish. How many people will be accepted in the cohort? Overall, we're capping likely at 150. We'll see if we get that high. Again, this is a new program modeled a little bit after Ready Together last year. Ready Together, we had about 100 in the cohort and ended the cohort above 90. So we're planning on around 100, possibly as high as 150. Again, those will be split up into groups. Carmen had a question around the application. So great question. The application, we want anybody who's willing to lead, but it's not necessarily a free-for-all. We want people who are willing to lead, who come with the mindset of our principles of doing. That's building trust. That's being able to understand how you build relationships and build trust among people that may think differently than you do. It's about integrity. Are you honest with what you're coming to the table with? It's about being driven to do. Are we looking to get something done, or are we going to talk about getting things done? We want action. Leadership is a verb and activity. Arizona first. This is not for political aspirations or personal ambitions. We, I think, have enough of that overall in America and in the state that we want this to be, how do we work together for the betterment of Arizona, not necessarily anyone's particular thing. And then the last one, team mindset, very important one. We purposely call our impact maker teams. It's not just you all, it's you all working together with people who are already doing the work in the community, funders who are funding the work, policymakers who are writing the policy behind the work. We purposely created our impact maker team to be intentionally coordinated. It's not collective impact. That costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time, but there is what we call collaboration with teeth. We expect things of you all, we expect things of our strategic partners, and we've seen some success just in the last 2 years of trying to get things going. So your application will ask you about what you think is most important to Arizona. What do you think is most important to you? And importantly, how will you achieve that, knowing that you might come across people, groups that disagree with where you come from? What will be your response? What will be your reaction? Again, a lot of what we learned from Ashoka was the mindset when they get these great people doing all these things all over the world. 90% they said are the people are already there. And it's something where we look for that in the application. It's not a long application by any means. Short answer, I think there's 2 or 3 plus some demographic info. Wouldn't take you probably more than a half hour, if that. So look forward to your applications. Looks like I have 1 minute left and I have Ashley.
Yeah, in the chat, she asked, in the past, the expectation was to attend every session without exception. Is that still the case?
Of course. And again, I say that jokingly. There's an expectation that you do attend. There's an expectation that you're on. And that we saw great success with that Ready Together. Again, this was the Zoom era and people are going to be a little more Zoom fatigued, but the way the programming runs, yes, we had great participation. We had, I think most of our sessions had 90% or more of the folks on and with their face. That was one of the class norms we established from the get-go, was that you're going to be on and we're going to see your face. And that makes a difference in the Zoom world. That makes a difference when we're trying to build relationships. In addition to that, those optional social events will get people to get to know each other one-on-one. But yes, there is an expectation that you attend. We do have excused absences. Absolutely, things happen, life happens, work, family. So there's not a hard line of, oh, if you miss more than 1 or 2, you're out. We do allow for excused absences. We just want to make sure we know about that ahead of it, so that we can take care of the pods, because again, we don't want people left by themselves in a pod or without their partners if somebody's not on.
All right.
And with the, oh, go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, sorry, David. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Thank you all for your questions. And we are running out of time here, but we do welcome additional questions that you have. So you can see my email address there at the bottom of the screen, michelle@valleyleadership.org. If there are any outstanding questions you have or questions that come to mind after the session wraps, please feel free to just send those my way and I will get you the answers that you seek. Also, just to reiterate, June 22nd is our application deadline. So please hop on our Valley Leadership website at valleyleadership.org/Catalyze to access that application and get that in ASAP. We are reviewing them now. So thank you all for that. And at this point, I do want to transition us into a session break. So we're going to take a few minutes, go grab some water. Thank you for your patience while I chug the rest of this. And I do want to play a little break music. When you hear that music stop, we are coming back together. And just so you know, when we do come back together, we are going to dig right into our mini session, which will include some small group breakouts, will include some whole group discussion. So if that's something that sounds fun and interesting to you, please come back and join us at 12:30.